Whenever people get together to play online games, usually it results in nothing more than a bit of some harmless fun. Once in a while though, someone will get angry, get obsessive, or even set out to kill the people that they play with. On this channel, we've covered quite a few cases related to gaming. On one hand, we've covered people who've played games for so many hours straight that they just straight up ended up dying. We've also talked about people who've flown into a rage and killed people over video games, along with people who have died while playing Pokemon Go. This time, let's focus on the topic of gamers who lash out, threaten, attack, and even kill other gamers. First up, we have Devin Wolfgang Vanderhoof. Plenty of people have come to meet friends through online gaming, sometimes even long-term partners. Without a doubt though, a lot of others come to find themselves in more of a one-sided sort of situation. The man in this case took that one-sided feeling and definitely went to the extremes with it. Devin had been playing online games with a woman for years. Over those years, he had developed quite an obsession with her, an obsession that never really seemed to go away. Even though Devin lived in Canada and this woman lived in California with her boyfriend, he wasn't willing to let it go. This obsession led to full-on stalking. In a bid to have his victim all to himself, he decided that he would learn where she lived, fly out there, and kidnap her. In November of 2024, Devin talked to his friend Darius Avery White and gave him a rundown on the whole situation. Surprisingly, Darius was more than willing to fly out to America with him and help him out with his kidnapping plans. Without the woman ever knowing, the two boarded a plane from British Columbia and set out to find her. After they arrived, they got a hotel and began to stalk the woman for several days, trying to formulate a plan on how they would get her. The two decided that they would pretend to be Amazon delivery drivers. They pulled up to the woman's house in the 300 block of Ballenbacker Drive in Salinas together, knocking on the front door while carrying a box. However, the way they decided to do it was extremely suspicious on its own, given that they came up to the front door at 10 p.m. on a Monday night. To Devin's surprise, the woman's boyfriend was the one to answer the door. Undeterred, Devin forced his way into the home and pulled out a knife. He stabbed the boyfriend multiple times, resulting in several critical injuries. The woman he was stalking saw what was happening and picked up what has only been called a sharp metal object in order to try and fight him off. She began stabbing Devin, who in turn began stabbing and strangling her. As the chaos continued, Devin ended up with 2 black eyes and a good number of stab wounds himself, eventually collapsing to the floor. Devin dropped the box he was carrying during the struggle, revealing the contents inside: a pair of handcuffs, duct tape, and multiple knives. The police were called and arrived at the house only a few minutes later, getting multiple calls that someone had been stabbed. Once they arrived, they saw that it wasn't even 1 or 2, but 3 people who had been stabbed. All of them were sent to the local hospital with an array of injuries ranging from minor scrapes to full-on grievous stab wounds. While the female victim had minor injuries herself, both her boyfriend and Devin were in pretty bad shape. All of them went on to survive, luckily enough. The police said, "We are very fortunate that nothing worse than what happened did happen. We have no idea what the intentions were with these items, but they couldn't have been good." That night, the police found Darius White a short distance away from the scene. While he was initially arrested, he claimed that he had no knowledge of what Devin had really planned to do, saying that he thought they were simply coming out to meet the woman. Given that the police had no reason to doubt him by this point, they had no choice but to let him go. That only lasted until the next morning, however, and the police put 2 and 2 together just in time. Darius was already back at the airport, frantically trying to get the next plane home possible. The police caught him at the San Jose Mineta International Airport as he was sitting down in his plane. They arrested him once again right there. Both of the men were thrown into the Monterey County Jail and hit with a variety of charges. Devin himself was looking at charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit attempted murder, mayhem, stalking, and burglary. Darius, seen as more of an accomplice, got 2 charges, those being attempted murder and conspiracy to commit attempted murder. Devin's bail was set at a very large $4.15 million, while Darius's was set at $1 million. Eventually, after a few weeks, the woman and her boyfriend recovered from the attack at the hospital. Devin and Darius, however, were arraigned in court on December 2nd after Devin was given a bit of time to recover from his injuries. However, it's likely going to be a good, long time before we find out what kind of sentence they end up with. The case will likely be delayed fairly substantially as the prosecutors have asked for more time, saying that they have a tremendous amount of evidence to sort through. The chief assistant district attorney said in an interview with the media that the case was extraordinary, adding, "Guys coming from Vancouver to Salinas to pose as an Amazon delivery person and stab somebody. It's one of the strangest cases I've ever seen." And now we've got the story of the Jacksonville Landing shooting. It really goes without saying that whether it's games, sports, or contests, a lot of people out there really can't stand losing. Well, given that this one was a combination of a game, a sport, and a contest, the man in this case really took the loss incredibly horribly. Jacksonville, Florida. On August 26th of 2018, a local video game venue in the Jacksonville Landing Marketplace called Good Luck Have Fun Game Bar was hosting a Madden NFL 19 tournament. It was a pretty sizable tournament with around 150 fans and participants showing up to play some games, watch, and have some fun. One of the players was a 24-year-old pro gamer specializing in Madden from Baltimore, Maryland, named David Katz. Online, he was known as either Ravens Champ, Ravens 2012 Champ, T-Rex Have a Heart Attack, Mr. Sliced Bread, or simply just Bread. He was no stranger to these tournaments, having previously won $10,000 at a large 2017 Madden tournament. It's pretty likely that he was hoping to get his hands on some cash like that again. David wasn't doing well behind the scenes, though. Not only did he have a long, storied history of mental health issues, he was even on an antipsychotic medication at the time. Having been involuntarily committed to several different mental hospitals on a variety of occasions, he was diagnosed with persistent depressive disorder and oppositional disorder not otherwise specified. David was also somewhat of a sore loser, and that's putting it lightly. He couldn't stand the idea of losing so much that it was about to send him into a rage. He lost a few rounds in the tournament, preventing him from moving on towards the finals. This sent him flying into a tantrum internally, something that he wasn't hiding so well from the other tournament goers. People immediately noticed that he was, in their words, acting weird, as he refused to shake hands with anyone who would beat him. David stormed out of the tournament, leaving onlookers a little bewildered as to how bad of a sport he was being. Little did they know, he wasn't heading home. David went back out to his car and opened up a case in the back seat. In this case, held 2 handguns. He grabbed the guns, slammed the car door, and made his way back into the event. David entered back into the venue and began to open fire. The event was being live-streamed on Twitch for all to see when the gunshots rang out, eventually leading to the current players dropping their controllers and fleeing the scene. One of the players who had beaten David was being interviewed. David targeted him specifically, shooting him on the spot. Afterwards, he turned around and then began firing indiscriminately into the crowd. In total, he killed 2 people and wounded 10 others. Then, once he was done, he turned the gun on himself and fired. The Jacksonville police were on the scene pretty shortly afterward. They called in the SWAT team, who began to search and evacuate the whole area. Firefighters who had actually been in the middle of a training session very nearby came out to help as well. The Coast Guard was even called in to sweep local waterways. None of them knew that their only perpetrator was already long dead. One of the 2 victims was a 22-year-old man named Elijah Clayton from Woodland Hills, California. Online, he was better known by the usernames True and Trueboy. Apparently, the decision to attend the tournament was very last minute, with him almost having chosen not to attend entirely. The other victim was a 27-year-old man named Taylor Robertson from Ballard, West Virginia, known better online as Spot Me Please. 11 of the other victims were taken to different local hospitals for their injuries. Some of them left the bar on their own and drove out to the hospital, while others had to be taken out in ambulances. 10 of them were suffering from gunshot wounds, while 1 other was injured as he fell while attempting to flee the scene. Of all of the injured, 2 were in critical condition and had to remain in the hospital for quite some time. The police came to find David on the ground with his weaponry nearby. It was found that he had been using a .45 caliber handgun and a 9mm, one of which had an aftermarket laser sight attached. Both of the weapons had been kept in his vehicle in advance, and both of them had been bought legally back in Baltimore. Knowing that, the police made their way out to David's home in Baltimore, Maryland. They raided his father's home and asked him a good number of questions. Electronic Arts, who published the Madden games and approved the tournament, helped out with the investigation as much as they could. The police said that this seemed more like the act of a lone criminal going berserk than any sort of terrorism. Given that their suspect was dead, there wasn't a whole lot to be done in the end. Justice wouldn't be served. By August of 2018, one person at the tournament that day had filed a lawsuit against Electronic Arts, the bar that hosted the event and the mall that held the bar, over what had happened. The lawsuit blamed the venue and the company for their lax security and said that gamers should be able to get together and pursue their passions without having to fear for their lives. Here we have the story of Guilherme Alves Costa. When it comes to online gaming, Call of Duty has really been a staple for a while now. However, the mobile game, Call of Duty Mobile, isn't really seen with quite as much enthusiasm. Well, the man in this case, for whatever reason, chose to take the competition very, very seriously. In a story that revolves around Call of Duty Mobile, we have the story of two semi-pro gamers in Brazil. Oliveira Bueno da Silva was a 19-year-old young woman that played for an esports team called FBI Esports, better known online by the username Saul. The other was an 18-year-old man named Guilherme Alves Costa. Guilherme was better known by his username Flashlight and played for the team called Gamers Elite himself. It seems that the two had met online while playing the game. Despite playing for rival teams, it seems that Oliveira felt that Guilherme was a friend to some degree and the two decided to meet up in person to play the game, taking part in a joint competition. Guilherme, for whatever reason, did not have the best of intentions. He showed up to meet her with a knife. Once she arrived at his home where they met, he pounced on her and stabbed her multiple times. Not content to leave the crime there, Guilherme decided to pull out his phone and give a bit of a monologue on video. Speaking to his fellow gamers in his group chat, he said, "You're thinking it's ink or that it's edited or something, but it's not. I really killed her. Got it? I've got a book, too. I asked some people to share it. I hope you read it. It contains some truths." The book that he's speaking of was a 52-page manifesto in which he explained why he decided to murder Oliveira, but the reasons were anything but convincing to the people who read it. In the manifesto, he mainly complained of being bored with his life, not having any goals, and having trouble getting along with others. He sent the video along with pictures of Oliveira's body to a few different WhatsApp group chats and fled the scene of the crime. However, Guilherme's own brother would be the one to arrive on the scene, see the dead woman, and call the police. Afterward, his brother talked with him on the phone, being told that Guilherme was planning on ending his life. His brother was able to talk him down. Guilherme actually turned himself into the police and they came out to his location. When they asked him why he killed her, he simply said, "Because I wanted to. I know the seriousness of the situation." He added that he was completely sane and lucid and was even smiling and laughing during his arrest. He was then taken away in handcuffs. The Gamers Elite clan was pretty disgusted with what Guilherme had done, to say the least. They released a statement shortly after, saying, "After the clan leadership became aware of what happened, we organized ourselves and took necessary measures. We informed the appropriate authorities and asked all our members not to share the video of the alleged crime." They added that they had never actually met Guilherme beforehand and didn't know that much about him. Guilherme Alves Costa was later sentenced to 14 years in prison. And last, we have the story of Edward Kang. Now, this is a case that we've actually touched on a bit during a monthly compilation about a year ago. However, given that it fits the theme of the video so well and that it's so weird, I can't go without mentioning it. A 20-year-old man named Edward Kang was playing an online game, an MMO specifically called Arcade. It seems to be a fantasy RPG similar to World of Warcraft. The Korean game is actually all set to go defunct, citing very few active online users. Before that was to happen, Edward was playing online with another user who he ended up locked into some sort of argument with. Edward then told his family that he was going to get out of town for a while and fly out to hang out with a friend he met while gaming. He hopped on a plane from Newark, New Jersey and set course for Jacksonville, Florida. He got himself a hotel room somewhat near his destination, his online enemy's house. While it isn't known how he got the man's address, he couldn't get over their fight and was ready to settle it in person. Edward went out to a local hardware store near the hotel and bought both a hammer and a flashlight. He gathered up some gear he had brought with him, black clothes, gloves, and a mask. He then went over to his enemy's home and managed to get in through an unlocked door. He saw his victim playing games on his PC. He decided to lie in wait until the man got up to take a break. That's when he would ambush him. Edward then did just that. When the man got up to take a bathroom break, Edward started hitting him over the head with the hammer. The victim wrestled Edward to the ground while screaming for help. That's when his stepfather woke up and came downstairs. He managed to take the hammer away and held the attacker down until the police showed up. When the police came out, they found both blood around the home's entrance and in the victim's bedroom. The victim was taken away to the hospital where he was treated for severe head wounds. Meanwhile, Edward was taken into custody and jailed on counts of attempted second-degree murder and armed burglary. When interviewed by the police, Edward told them that he came out to Florida to attack his victim because he believed he was, quote, a bad person online. He then asked how much prison time he would be facing. While he was facing a very hefty sentence, the police didn't tell him that straight up, instead telling him, it'll be a long time before you play video games. Speaking to the public, the Nassau County Sheriff said, "This serves as a stark reminder of the potential real-world consequences of online interaction. I just want to let you know that this is a weird one. Some things make you say, Some things you just can't make up. There are some things that make you say, what in the world was he thinking? And there are some things that make you say, you're not going to believe this. Well, this case makes you say all four of those." Edward cried when he faced the judge and his mom watched in over Zoom. His attorneys tried to get his case downgraded to second-degree attempted murder, but it seems he will now be charged with first-degree attempted murder instead. He is awaiting trial, where he will likely get a very long sentence. Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you want to check it out, I've opened up a merch store. There you can get yourself some cool Dire Trip t-shirts and coffee mugs and other stuff too. If you want, go ahead and follow me on social media. If anything were to ever happen to this channel, that would probably be the only way you'd ever hear about it. I also really appreciate when people follow me on Patreon. There you can get videos early, ad-free, and uncensored. Channel memberships are up too, and you can get the same benefits there as well. Once again, this has been your host Kyle. Thank you, and good night.